Bonnie's rescue. It was early in the morning. The family had gone out for the day to spend a day at the beach. Mighty Oak was surrounded by all the little animals, insects, and birds, eagerly awaiting to hear another story from the mighty tree. Now, my friends, do you have any stories from a certain time you'd like to hear, or any characters, or shall I just choose? Yes, Pete, I see you. A blue tit was wildly jumping up and down to get the mighty tree's attention. Come here, lad. Pete blushed. All eyes were on him. He shouted, but his little voice got carried away. His friend nudged him. Go on, he won't bite. Poor Pete. He was wishing now he hadn't jumped so vigorously, only he was so excited to hear a particular story. Mighty Oak sensed his awkwardness and knew he just didn't want to walk through the crowds. The mighty tree stretched out one of his branches, lowered it. Hop on, young man. Pete jumped up onto the branch. He'd only just fledged and was still not confident with flying. Pete hopped along to the trunk of Mighty Oak. Mummy told me a bedtime story you'd shared one Christmas about Chuck and his animals in Scotland. Is there any more about them, please, sir? Good choice, young man. Again Pete blushed. However, this time it was with pride. There's so many about Chuck and his animals. There is the incredible journey. The mighty tree was quiet. They all knew this meant he was ruminating over something. They sat in anticipation. Suddenly the mighty tree said loudly, "Aha!" which made them all jump. Mighty Oak laughed warmly. I'm sorry, my friends. I have the story of Chuck's animals getting lost and their incredible journey to Scotland. Oh, they were all excited. However, that's too long to tell you today, as our family are just out for the day. Oh, resounding disappointment from all. But I can tell you the story of Bonnie's rescue, one of Chuck's donkeys. Would you like that? Yay, they were all excited and jumped for joy. Yes, please, Mighty Oak. Right you are then, settle down. Pete, you can stay here if you like. Pete liked very much. He felt very important, sat next to Mighty Oak. It was 1973 and young Billy was just coming down for breakfast to be met with a glorious smell of eggs and bacon wafting through the air. He ran over and planted a kiss on his mummy's cheek, and they sat down. Billy's mummy smiled to herself. My, a kiss. And pray, what did I do to deserve that this morning? Just love you, Mummy. Billy sat down, swinging his legs. He was in a good mood today. It was a Friday, but no ordinary Friday. It was special and no school. Cooked breakfast. Could life get any better? Just then a hiss, and Flopsy ran to a basket in the corner. Sorry, Flopsy. You kicked the cat again? Yes, Mum, sorry, it was an accident. George's daddy had told Mummy that Billy was not going to school this Friday, and he was going to the farmer's market, which had him with him, and there was no discussion to be had. Mummy, whilst buttering the toast, was smiling to herself, remembering George announcing the plans for Friday. Betty would usually have argued, however, there was something quite masterful how George had said it, and she put up no argument. Just then George walked in. Good morning, son, ruffling Billy's hair. Hello, my sweet. Something smells good. Aye, lass, it's not every day likes of us get to meet sovereignty. Just think, the Queen of England coming here to our market. Why is that again, George? Well, I bumped into Chuck and apparently old Mr. Watkins is retiring. Betty interjected, Mr. Watkins. George was wondering if his wife ever listened to him. However, he replied, Bet's love, Mr. Watkins, he worked for King George in the stables. He was always highly regarded, so the Queen is coming for his last market. Well, George, sit down. I'll get you boys your breakfast dished up. Now, before George could say a word, Betty was tucking a large napkin into his collar. Don't want you getting breakfast down, you not today. Billy thought this was hilarious. He laughed at his father. Mum got you. Hey, Mum. Before he knew it, he had had the napkin treatment too. George winked at his son, a sort of dad-son solidarity thing. Billy put his thumb up to his dad. Dad, is it true Chuck's leaving to move to Scotland? Aye, lad, 'tis a sad day when he goes. Billy's eyes started to tear up. I like Chuck, he's my friend. Why does he have to go to Scotland? It's so far. Betty and George's eyes met, acknowledging their son's sadness. You see, Chuck was so well known, respected in the community. He was a pillar of the community, the go-to man for sound advice, help. A faithful man who also had a love for animals. It was this particular reason Billy liked him. If animals trust him, I do too. Chuck had taught Billy how to remove ticks from his dad's sheep, which impressed George. Billy found Chuck easy to talk to, and he was the only adult who didn't shoo him away like other adults. He made Billy feel like he had a voice. Billy wiped his tears with his sleeve, not wanting Mummy or Daddy to see. Yes, he was going to miss Chuck and his animals very much. Betty noticed it was getting light outside. What time are you boys going? Well, it opens at 7 for sellers to bring the stock. Then the auctions start about 10:30. And Majesty's going to be there at 12:30. Oh, I wonder if you'll be on television. Television? Billy nearly choked on his toast. I think the local rag might be there, but it's not a big thing. George looked thoughtful. I suppose it wouldn't be a stretch to think the local station could be there. Well, I don't want to be on television. Why ever not, Billy? Betty sounded quite surprised. I'm sure lots of children would love it. Not me, Mum. All right, love. George looked at Betty, shook his head. He gently held her hand, smiling affectionately at his wife. All right, son, you don't have to. Thanks, Dad. Betty loved their relationship between them. They were so close. Sometimes, though, she felt a little left out. She didn't quite understand the little nuances between them, their instinctive understanding they had without even saying a word. Betty always worried about Billy. He didn't seem to have many friends at school. He preferred being in the company of animals and his father and Chuck. She voiced her concerns to George. He was of the opinion he was just a loner, simple as that. Betty had wondered if it was because he was an only child. George just said, well, don't worry about things that aren't there.